I was saying that this is a different approach. It is using this as an abstract class. It has an abstract class up in here. Just like this. We have an abstract cost which has to be implemented. And we have another abstract class, condiment decorator, which is extending the beverage. So that is what is different from what we were thinking about. In the basic form, what we thought about is not false. I mean, it is some sort of a basic form of what of the decorator pattern. In here, there are some added benefits that I can tell you about. So when we extend the beverage, then I don't need to have an extra condiment inside it. Like this is the base. So there is no condiment that I need to be when I create this this class, this object, I'm not passing it another beverage. It's just I just created this is the base. But when I create a mocha, this is extending the condiment decorator, and in that case, it has this beverage here. So I need to, when I create a mocha, I need to be supplying mocha a beverage. So this is how it's being used. All right. So the difference was this, but in this form, I can do very funny things, interesting things. You see that this component has a concrete component. I can have multiple versions of this concrete component. But what I'm also having is another component. But this one is, I'm calling it a decorator, and the decorator is using component as one of its attributes. In the example that we gave, this link didn't exist. Let me show you. Maybe you see, it's not in here. So that means what I mean here is I don't have a private beverage something in here. Instead, I have it here. You know? So in the example, this one is in here for each one of them. Okay, that's one of the differences. So there are reasons for both of them. But the very nice thing about this design is I can do the same thing in here. Okay. How can I know how to do it. So what stops me from repeating this in here? Can I do this? I'm really curious. Can I do this? You know what I mean? So that is interesting, in my opinion. So this is another layer of things being added on. I don't know if you ever be able to come across something like this complicated. And would it be this, would it be the solution to do that? But you got that, right? I mean, it is like, you have this coffee here, you have these decorators, But you have the whipped cream, you know, that I think I found an example for that. You have the whipped cream on top of it, that you ask for a cream. On top of the cream, you ask for a sauce. Okay? So these are the sauces. That is only working on top of the whipped cream. So this is the whipped cream. And these are the sauce. Okay, there is, you know, nothing stops me from not doing this. I mean, I can do this. I can add another layer as well. You know, is it okay? But tell me, is it useful, or what do you think about that? Because we did have several versions, like we had this, Decorator 1. In Decorator 1, we had a different approach. Let's see that. We did have a coffee, which had a list of coffee base, a list of condiments. Coffee base was an interface, and we had a decaf coffee implementing coffee base, and we were having this, and we were calculating it, the cost of it by going through this list and summing it up for all the coffee bases and for all the condiments. When it comes to here, of course, we did a different approach. We did it with an interface, condiment interface. And we had a decaf, which is a condiment. And we had a milk, which is a condiment as well, but this condiment has itself in itself. So, oh, was it readable? Hold on, because I forgot to pull this down. So what do you think, which one is which? I mean, which one is more useful to you? I mean, what do you think about this decorator pattern overall? Well, like, I would imagine that strategy pattern is really, really very useful, and probably you already use it, or will be using it after you've seen it. Like observer, yes, you've been using it because all the listeners are observers. Like the mouse listener, the keyboard listener, all of them are observers, observer patterns, you know. And I don't know if you create your own observer stuff or only using them, like the keyboard and mouse listeners. What about this one? Decorator. It's more of a complicated approach. Well, it is simple in one sense. Instead of using lists, you know, that as we did in the first trial that we did, we're not using lists, but we're using some self-referential stuff, pointing itself to itself. What do you think? I mean, no. Okay, so move on. Next type of. Yeah, I mean, that's it. Okay. Finished?
Problem.
No. You didn't like it?
I would have still done the list.
Yes.
You would like the list? Okay. You didn't like it too?
I don't like the fact that we have references to the middle of the mix. For example, if we have milk, we add milk and then we add another thing, I don't know, whip. We have a reference to the object which only has the milk, but in fact I added whip to the same object later on. It would be better to have one with all the ingredients.
But why?
It's weird to have the...
because of weirdness?
I know, it's not because of...
It is like, you know, I'm an old-fashioned man, so I'm not into all these.
Like,
Focus, focus.
I mean, if we were to keep a list, I think Java would prioritize keeping the list and the references in the list together.
Oh, it is like, you know, if, like, humans were meant to be flying, then they would have wings, type of an.
No. I mean, like, if I kept everything in a list, then I'm keeping references, like pointers in a list, right? And then Java, I would imagine, would somehow think that these are related and would physically try to position them together in the main memory. Whereas if I am doing reference to reference to reference objects, then I'm not really constraining them, so they could be all over the place in my main memory. For example, this is one thing I can think of. And
Okay, I got it. But what would be the benefit, if there are any benefits to decorator pattern other than, I mean, of course, I understand that there are benefits to the list approach. Are there any benefits you think you can think of about the decorator? Like the one that you, for example, you picked it up from in the middle. There's a sequence of objects, one inside the other one, from up there to down there.
I mean,
But you were objecting that you will be able to pick it up from the middle. Then what happens is that when you pick it up from the middle, all the ones under it will be coming into it with it.
yeah, so it's easier to undo, for example, maybe. Like
Yeah, or you know, whenever that you want to be able to grab something and be able to get all the things underneath all together with it, then it's nice to have it like that. But if it is, if you want to be able to refer everything as individually, as in a list, because in a list you don't do it like that. In the list everything is individual, so you point and you get it. But in this one, so when you point to something, you are, you know, it's like a bag inside a bag and inside a bag. The Russians have that doll. Do you remember that doll? Matrushka. Yeah, this is like in Matrushka. So you open up several one of them, and when you grab the one in the middle, so everything inside it is also coming with you. So that's the difference, I believe. So maybe there might be some benefits when you want to use it like that. Like as I said, you know, that after this, oops, wrong. Yeah, like in this example, when you have in the spring, it is like that. I don't know about the others, but in this one, all of these things has to be coming together, whatever inside it. Like you have a canvas, like in this one, a text view, a scroll decorator, and then there is a border decorator, maybe other things as well. So if you want to grab something and carry it to somewhere else, you want to be able to get everything underneath together with it. Like you are scrolling and putting it into somewhere else. Like you scroll something and you place it to somewhere else. So you need to be able to grab whole thing with it underneath, you know, all the Matrushka dolls inside that particular part. So you want to be able to grab it and to move it to here. Otherwise, you have to know which one to pick. If it's a list, for example, if all of them was in a list, you have to know which one is inside the other one. So, well, in a way, I think this looks like a list, linked list, in a way, right? It looks like a linked list. You know linked lists? So it looks like a linked list. Not double linked list, but a single linked list. Okay, so I think that was okay. I think that's all right for now. So well, factory you know already, aren't you? I mean, you are probably very familiar with factory design pattern. No? Oh, okay. Never? I mean, like in no package that you're using, there is no word like a something factory.
I've seen it usually in database access objects.
Oh, okay.
Usually.
So,
But
At
I don't
least-
know what it does or why do we use it. I don't know if it is.
okay, so, I mean, it is good. So that means that I will be able to teach you something. Well, the factory is an object factory. So basically, if you are creating a pizza factory, but it is very complicated because it has a lot of ifs and else inside it. Like, you know, I'm creating it, for example, it could be in this constructor that there are a lot of things that is going on. Or maybe like there are lots of ifs and else's. If it's that, then do this and this. Or maybe it is a type of an object that a lot of attributes has to be initialized in the constructor. Or after you create it, you have to, you know, you create something like there is this pizza, you create this pizza, but then you are working on it. There are lots of ifs and else's, not exactly in the constructor of its you know, object, the same object. It's in its own constructor, but outside of it, what we do have here is that looking at the string type, we are creating different types of pizzas, or what we're doing is we're changing something inside the pizza. There are some attributes, we're changing it. There are so many little tiny things that we have to be careful about. So instead of doing it in here, what we do is let's create a factory. That is, let's have another object which is responsible for the creation of another object. Let's have an object which is object A, a factory object, that is responsible for creating a pizza object, for example. This is a pizza factory creating a pizza. So it is responsible for all the different styles, all of its attributes, all the details. Because this pizza has a lot of variations in it. It is the dough, you know the dough? The under layer is called dough. It has some different cheese on it. There are some sauce can be different, like there is a tomato sauce, all right? And there's cheese on it. There are different condiments, so there are a lot of things different. There's a thin one, there's a thick one, so all of them are different. So maybe 4 or 5 different attributes, but the values of all these attributes are changing, and it's important to us. So in order to better encapsulate all this complexity, we create another object which is responsible for the creation of our pizza object. So that is the idea behind factory. Otherwise, what you would be ending up with is you would be, for example, if it is only in one place that this creation happens, the creation of this pizza happens. So there's no problem with that. But if there are multiple places where you need to create this pizza object, here and there and some other place, then you will be repeating all that complexity again and again. You need to have this if and else's in other places as well. So actually it is the same thing. I mean, we are taking this, we are seeing that this is going to be repeated here and there. So what we end up doing is taking this and putting it into another class and call it factory, and that is going to be responsible for all the creation of other factories. Well, this is simple, but what is more complicated is what is called the abstract factory. Because this is simple. Like when I already described it to you, I don't need to do anything else. You know, only by using words, I was able to describe it to you what a factory pattern is. It is just creating complicated, or even not complicated. I just want to create CAD objects, I have a CAD factory. So what it does is, it has one function called create CAD. It returns a new CAD object. So that's it. This is a factory. It is not complicated. But now what I'm able to do, before creating the CAD, I can describe the CAD. The legs, the color, everything, the whiskers, everything I can do over there. So all the complication is in the CAD factory object. It is responsible for. But that is very easy. This one is easy. What is more complicated is the abstract factory. So we will come to that. Let me try this way. If things get complicated, we can go back to... Okay, so this was what I described. You see? So now I have a simple pizza factory. So this time, instead of all that complication in here, instead of putting all of this into this place, I have a simple pizza factory. And this factory is creating the pizza depending on the type of pizza that I'm giving it to it. So I am getting rid of all of this and putting all if analysis into the simple pizza factory. So this is the simple one, as the name says. And then what I do is I prepare, bake, cut, box, and ship the pizza. So this is my order pizza function. So this is how it is. Order pizza, we've seen it. This was order pizza. This was order pizza inside pizza store. And it is using a simple pizza factory to create pizzas. And I have a cheese pizza, veggie pizza, and clam pizza. So, well, I'm using an abstraction here because there can be different pizza types. So that's why I'm using this abstraction. And this one is creating, using this abstract pizza, is creating all these pizzas for me. So this is how it works. This is the simple one. So I'm using this Ankara and Beijing. The book that I'm using, you know that this is the book that I'm using for all this. It's using some other things like New York and stuff like that. But I find it more interesting to use A, B, and C as types of pizza stores. So I wanted to go international, and instead of Bursa, I choose Beijing. So this is how it is. So, well, let's assume that now we have to open new pizza houses in different places, and different places have different tastes. In Ankara things are different, in Beijing is definitely different. So we need to be careful about that. So what we have is that we create an Ankara pizza factory. Okay, it's a different pizza factory. And then there is a Beijing pizza factory, and that's also a different pizza factory. So there is no simple one pizza factory anymore. Because of taste differences in different countries, we will be having different ones. So when I order a pepperoni to a pizza store using Beijing pizza factory, it's going to be a different pepperoni than the one in Ankara. So that is the idea. So because we have differences in taste. Okay, so this is something that we need to be able to handle. So, okay, this is sort of explanation extra explanation that you already understand it. So what I do here is that when I'm creating the Ankara pizza store or the Beijing pizza store, the only difference is that the pizza factory. When it's a Beijing pizza factory, it's of course gonna be a Beijing style pizza factory. Doesn't matter what it is. I can open up a Beijing type of pizza factory or a pizza store in Ankara as well. So it's only the factory type which is defining. I'm giving this factory to the pizza store during the creation, during the construction of it. So now this is how it is. Pizza store is using simple pizza factory, you know. I've added this too, different pizza factories. So what I have here is this became what? This became a super type. So now this is an abstract factory now, from now on. So what happened is this. The problem that I had was, the reason that I was using the simple factory was because I need to be working, there's less of ifs and else's, or there are maybe lots of little things that I have to do when I create an object. It has many attributes, for example, all of them have to be setting up to a setting when it is created. So there is a lot of repetition. Whenever I create that object, I encapsulate all of it and make it the responsibility of some other object. And I call this a factory object. So this is how I started. But why do I need a abstract pizza factory? That is because, for example, I have maybe different ways of organizing this object. Yes, it is taking a lot of time. For example, taking the cat example, whenever I create a cat, it has all those attributes, but I have to set its moods, like, you know, the mood of the cat is usually what? They are more grumpy, more self-dependent. They don't like to go alone, you know, with other cats. They're just independent, and, you know, I have to set all these things. Every time I create a cat, I have to set its mood again. I have to set that it has 4 legs. I have to set that it has a tail. Everything I have to repeat and repeat again. So why do I need an abstract factory, cat factory? Because I have different types of cats. Like I have a black cat, I have fat cats, I have Siamese cats, you know. For all of them, there are some details are changing. So for all those details, I'm having different factories. Since when I'm having different factories, it is best to have a super type of them all, so that in order to be able to refer to them, refer to all of them at once. So that is the idea. And when things get more complicated, what I do is this. When I order a pizza, or when I create a pizza, some things are the same actually. There are some things the same, so I don't need to repeat them all. So I need some generalization. Here's what I'm doing. So ordering the pizza is the same everywhere, but what is changing is creation of the pizza. So I say, let's move on. I little bit go down into the pizza itself. Okay, maybe it has a name. Of course, it has a name. There is a dough, there is a sauce, and there are some toppings on it. So I prepare, bake, cut, and box it. So, well, what happens is baking, cutting, and boxing is the same everywhere, but what is different is the preparation of it. How I prepare it is different from Beijing to Ankara or other places. And also the dough, the sauce, the toppings are different. So in the first place, what I did have was to I did have a factory which is creating the pizza, the whole pizza thing, the pizza object. I had some factories who are responsible for that creation of the pizza, depending on the location, like Ankara or Beijing. Now I'm going to move it to something else. Now I'm going to move to, instead of creating the pizza, or together with creating the pizza, I can go inside the pizza and I can have factories for all these individual things instead of that. So that's all.